Hey everyone, Steven here, and welcome to my little library of horrors. So, every day I check Facebook Marketplace hoping to find a little hidden treasure here or there. It's rare, but it does happen. You never know what you're gonna find. Just the other day I came across a posting of 40 vintage mystery books for $15. And, my thinking is people tend to lump horror and mystery together all the time, so, maybe I'll get lucky. And if not, at least I got some decent mystery books out of it. So, it's kind of a win win in the end. Usually, any books I don't keep, I bring to my local bookshop for store credit and just kind of rate their horror selection. But, so yeah, either way, it was a win win for me. But, so I messaged the lady that posted it, and we got to talking. And eventually she asked me what I was into. And I said, well, horror is pretty much my genre of choice. And she was like, okay, well, I'll check what I have and I'll get back to you. So I said, okay, cool. So about a couple hours later, she messages me and says, oh, I found something that's right up your alley. She said, I found about 58 vintage horror books, all spanning from early 60s to the early 90s. So I was like, oh, wow, that's great. Sure. And so I essentially, at the end of it all, I ended up buying about 8 boxes of books from her. Mix of fantasy, um, mystery, sci-fi, all that kind of stuff. Sorry, my heater's rattling right now, so it's kind of distracting. I apologize if you can hear that. But anyway, so overall, I bought 8 boxes of books, and I took a quick glance through them all and ended up finding about 20 more horror books mixed in with all the others. So overall, I have over 70 horror books I got from this lot for about $20. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good steal, especially considering what I found in here. Yeah. But anyway, that's enough rambling about that. I've got over 70 books to get through, so I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time going into detail about each one unless it's something special to me, or maybe it's one I've been looking for a while or something like that, or else even just a minute a book, this video would be over an hour. So let's get to it. The first one is one that right off the bat really got my attention. The title itself, the cover I love. It's very simple, but very effective, and I'm a big fan of that. And that book is called The Sounds of Silence by Judith Richards. Um, I couldn't even really find anything on it on eBay, I think. I don't know. I looked up a lot of these to try to find on eBay, and some were easy to find, some are all over the place, and some have absolutely no listings at all. So I know there was at least one that had no listing. But anyway, yeah, I really love the cover on this. Um, Again, something about stairways and basements. Um, they're just some of my favorite covers, honestly, and I think that really stems back to my Goosebumps days. Um, don't go into the basement, or is it stay out of the basement? It's one of those. Don't go into the basement or stay out of the basement. But yeah, that cover really creeped me out as a kid, and the story itself too was really terrifying. Um, so I think that's kind of where my appreciation for staircase and doorway covers come from. But yeah, this sounds and looks fantastic. I honestly can't wait to get to it. Um, yeah, so this definitely looks really cool. Yeah, as you can tell, a lot of these books aren't in the best condition, but I collect for the love of the genre and the hobby. It's never been about money for me. So anyway, the next book is one I have wanted for a really long time. I think since I first saw it in Paperbacks from Hell. But yeah, it's been one I've been wanting for a while, and I'm really glad I didn't just go and buy it online, because now I found it in the slot. And that book is The Keep by F. Paul Wilson. I'm a really big fan of the medieval theme, so castles and stuff like this, right up my alley. I really love it. And I don't know, something about this cover just really like grabs my attention every time I see it. Anytime it's posted on any group that I'm in, or if I'm skimming through paperbacks from hell to kind of just freshen up my list for my collection, I always take a second to really appreciate this cover because it's just, I don't know. It's not like overly vibrant or anything like that. It's not even, I guess, anything super special, but I don't know. It's just kind of cool. I don't know, but I'm really excited to finally have that in my collection. The next one is Cabal by Clive Barker. I see this one posted not super frequently, but enough to know that I know of it. I personally haven't read any of Clive's work. I know super blasphemous coming from a horror fan, especially a horror reader. I don't know. I guess I'm not a huge fan of mixing fantasy with horror. Like, I love dark fantasy. Berserk's one of my favorite series of all time. I obviously love horror, but I don't know. I just feel like they don't mesh super well. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I haven't found the right book to do that yet, but I don't know. I don't know. It's just hard for me to kind of... I don't know. I guess it's just difficult for me to split the expectations of each genre in one book. I don't know. The next one I am really excited to add. It's one that I've been eyeing for a long time, and I'm really glad that I didn't, again, buy it online, because I see it online usually for around the $20 to $25 mark. So to get it for essentially less than $1, big win for me. But that book is Demon's Eye by Stephen Gresham. And again, it's a stairway cover leading to the basement. I really love it. Yeah, and it is a step back cover. So I'll go ahead and open that up for you. Show you the inside there. Very cool. But yeah, I see this one get posted a lot too, even when I'm like kind of browsing online. I'll see this one get posted. I'm always just like, oh, that's such a cool cover. I really like that. But yeah, very excited to add that to the collection. Next up is The Damnation Game by Clive Barker. Again, I think I have like 2 or 3 copies of this already, so nothing extravagant or special to me anyway. But the next one is pretty interesting. Never heard of the author. It's called Come 13 by David Silva. Pretty cool cover. Really nice detail. It's definitely got the grooves on the wings there. I don't know what these covers are called. I probably should have looked it up before I started the video, but yeah, I really love covers that have the special grooves to just kind of really make the covers pop there. But yeah, that's a pretty cool one. Next up is by an author that I've only recently discovered myself, but a lot of people seem to like. And that is Ray Garton. And I have Dark Channel by him here. Yeah, I only recently discovered him last month, I think, when I picked up his book Live Girls at my local bookstore. And a lot of people rave about that book. I've never read anything by him, never really heard anything about him, to be honest, but a lot of people say Live Girls is an excellent vampire take, so I'm probably going to get to it probably sometime next year. But we'll see. Like I said, doesn't hurt to add more of his stuff to the library, especially if I like it. Next up is The Eyes of Darkness by Leigh Nichols, a.k.a. Dean Koontz. Pretty sweet cover. I think I already have a copy, if I'm not mistaken, just a different cover, but, you know, glad to have this one in here. Yeah, the books aren't in necessarily the best condition, but, you know, as I've said, I collect purely for the fun of it. I love to read. You know, never been about the money. So, let's see. Next up is Floating Dragon by Peter Straub. Funny thing about this one is, back in my old hometown at an antique shop, I came across a hardcover copy of this book for $1. And for whatever reason, I just never picked it up. I guess it was because I hadn't read anything by him, and the title just doesn't sound horror to me, I guess. But, I kick myself for not getting it, to be honest. But, you know, this will do for now. Let's see. Next up, Carrion Comfort by Dan Simmons. I already have 2 other copies of this book. I'm personally not a fan of it. I know it's raved about in the horror community. I know a lot of people love it. I don't think it's a bad book, but it literally took me months to finish. And I was doing the audiobook on top of it, so it was a drag for me, but I don't know. I won't go into detail about it, but like I said, just not a big fan of the book. But I will always pick up a copy when I see it, because I know it's widely wanted, so good trade bait. Next up is a book that I know is more on the rare side, especially for those of us that try to collect all of the paperbacks from Hell books. But this was one I really thought I was going to have to buy online, just because, again, it is on the rare side. But I'm really glad I don't have to. And that book is called Bloodroot by Thomas Mordain. Obviously, you can see that it is a step back cover there. Very cool. I really love it. Let me see. I'll go ahead and open the cover here. There we go. Get a good look at that art inside. Oh, yeah. I actually just recently found out about this book from a Facebook group. Funny enough, the person was asking about this book because they couldn't remember the title of it, and they just remember this picture here. But yeah, when someone had, mentioned it and that this was the book, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I need to add that to my collection. And I did. Let's see. Next up is Julia by Peter Straub. I really like this cover. Again, it's very simple but very effective. Normally, I'm not huge on the massive, pure black covers. I just think it's such a waste of space. I think you could have so much more. Like, I'm not against black covers or anything, but this one, like I said, uses it in a very positive way. I think the major amount of black on it kind of works for it rather than against it. But I don't even think I have a copy of this in my library at all. But I also have probably 900 books in here now, so I could have one and have no idea. But I try to log everything I have, but, I think once I hit the 500 mark, it was just so hard to keep up with everything. And, when you're buying them at, sometimes 20, 30, even 40 books at a time, it's very time consuming to log them all. And I don't know. My brain has an affinity to kind of know what I have in my collection and what I don't. I don't know how to really explain it, but hey, I never complain about doubles, triples, quadruples. None of it. I like it all. Next up is called Guilty Pleasures by Laurel K. Hamilton. Never heard of it. Never heard of the author. Pretty cheesy cover, if I'm going to be honest, but nothing wrong with cheesy at all. Love cheesy. I don't know if I'll ever get to it, to be totally honest. I don't know. Just doesn't seem like my kind of thing, but who knows? Next up is In Search of Dracula. I actually already own a copy of this. Found it at a thrift store for about $1. So, oh yeah, that's like, if you know, you know. All the like my whole library just smells like that right now because of all the boxes in here, and it's like heaven. Next up is The Magic Cottage by James Herbert. I went from having none of his work in my library to having closer to, I think, over 10 at this point, just in the last month alone. Still no copy of The Rats like I'd like. That's a book that I literally have Domain. I have 3 copies of Lair. I can't find a copy of The Rats anywhere, of course. I'll take any cover at this point, but still on the hunt. But next up is called The Dream Lords by Adrian Cole. And this is called a mix of Tolkien and Lovecraft, which are 2 of my favorite writers, so this definitely seems like it would be right up my alley. Very cool cover. Really like that. It kind of reminds me of that one book. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a wall, like grabbing a person on the front cover. I really want to say it's by Graham Masterton, but don't quote me on that. Next up is Children of the Night by Dan Simmons. I've probably got 3 copies of this already. Haven't read it yet, but Simmons is very hit or miss for me, and I think he is for a lot of people, so I don't know. Maybe I'll get to that one. Maybe. Next up is called Mark of the Werewolf by Jeffrey Sackett, and this cover is just gorgeous. This is just a really, really beautiful cover. You can see it's got the nice grooves on it, like even just the way the light reflects off of it, you can see the detail on like every piece of fur on this cover, and it's outstanding. Absolutely outstanding cover. I'm not a big werewolf fan, to be totally honest, but again, I think that's more of a case of I haven't found the right book, because I wasn't a major fan of vampires at all, and then I finally read Dracula. Correction, I read Salem's Lot, then Dracula, and now I love vampires, if the book is right. So, this one looks good. I really think it would probably be a really good werewolf book to start off. So, who knows? Alrighty, let's see. Next up is The Devil's Advocate by Andrew Niederman. Very cool cover. Again, it's got the little details on it. If I can try and get the light, there we go. The author's name sounds very familiar. I don't remember what else he wrote. I really want to say I even have it in my library. The name rings a bell. I just can't remember what else he's wrote. But yeah, this looks pretty sweet. Next up is another case of simple but effective. And that is The Trident by Joel Hamill. And again, I think it's very cool. It's very reminiscent to Alien, in my opinion. Just kind of like, it's got that like black cover with the glow around a singular item on the cover. So like I said, it's very reminiscent of Alien, in my opinion, and I think that's why I really like it. But yeah. Sorry if it's a little buzzy there. But yeah, looks pretty cool. I want to say I've never heard of Joel Hamill, but then when I say it, I feel like I've heard the name before. So, who knows? Next up is one I'm extremely excited to add to my library because I have had none of this author's works. They're always incredibly hard to find, at least for me. And his covers are a pretty good contender for probably the best in the genre. And I'm happy to add at least this one to it. And that is Tengu by Graham Masterton. Yeah, as I said, I don't have any of his work in my library, so I am extremely happy to add this in here. This is honestly pretty tame compared to a lot of his other covers. They're usually very in your face, very graphic, and I think that's why they're always so sought after. But even the story in itself sounds really interesting. I love Japanese folklore and Japanese horror. I think they have a wonderful grasp on how to do psychological horror. It's easily some of the best I've ever experienced in any medium. So I'm really excited to get to this. I think I will really, really enjoy that one. Let's see. Up next, we have In a Dark Dream by Charles L. Grant. Here we go. Yeah, pretty cool cover. I think what I really always appreciate about Grant's covers is his choice of color scheme. He always tends to go off the cuff with, like, even this, like, a really... I don't even want to call it neon green. It's almost like a... I don't know if you know those Witch Brew Kit Kats. The green Kit Kats. It's exactly what it reminds me of. But, you know, I know he uses a lot of, like, orange and just really fun colors. You know, a lot of colors you don't see in horror. You know, it's usually a ton of black, a ton of red, usually a lot of white as well. But with Grant's covers, they're always very detailed and very eye-catching. I really enjoy his covers. I think Jill Bowman is her name that does a lot of his covers. She's incredibly talented. I love her work. She actually did A Glow of Candles by Charles Grant, which is probably my favorite cover in my collection. So very excited to have this in there as well. Let's see. Next up is called The Conjurers by Marilyn Harris. I want to say this is in Paperbacks from Hell, but yeah, pretty cool cover, pretty simple. It's got blue pages, which is pretty sweet. I always like that. Excellent smell. Yeah, pretty cool looking. Let's see. Next is Those Who Hunt the Night by Barbara Hambly. Looks like a vampire hunting novel. Let's see. On the back it says location, London, time, the period of Sherlock Holmes, subject, vampires. So, yeah, probably a typical vampire hunting novel. You know, probably won't ever get to it if I'm going to be completely honest, but hey, doesn't mean I should leave it behind. Let's see. I'm not even sure if this next one... Oh, it is. It is. But the next one is called Running with the Demon by Terry Brooks. Why do I feel like Terry Brooks is a name in fantasy a lot? I know the name Terry is extremely common in fantasy. I can't remember the author's name, but yeah. Looks okay. Honestly, nothing stunning or eye-catching, to be totally honest, other than maybe the font and the color. But yeah, probably won't ever get to that if I'm going to be totally honest. Let's see. Ooh, the next one seemed very interesting. And that is called, I'm probably going to butcher this, Abyssos by Raymond Hardy. But, yeah, there's that. Kind of reminds me of that one book, what's it called? Abyss. Can't remember the author's name, but I see it constantly posted in my Facebook groups, so it's another one that eludes me, unfortunately, but this one looks pretty sweet. I really do like this one. Alrighty, let's see. Ooh, next up is also another very rare find. I know this one's really sought after by collectors. It usually retails for upwards of like $40 to $50 on eBay, so I'm very happy to add this to my collection. And that is The Spirit Wood by Robert Masello. Very cool cover. I really like that, like, just kind of splash of color right there. And everything else is just kind of buried. Sorry, the focus is a little funky. I'm trying to kind of get the glare off the covers while also trying to keep it in focus enough to where you can see the detail. But, yeah, definitely pretty psyched to add this to the collection. Like I said, it's very sought after by collectors, so another one that I thought I was going to have to resort to buying online, but as I always say, patience is key. They are out there. Alrighty, next up is The Quorum by Kim Newman. Yep, never heard of it. Never heard of the author. Probably won't ever get to it. Cover doesn't really speak to me that much either anyway, but whatever. It is what it is. They can't all be great. Making sure that's not a little bookworm eating it there. There we go. Let's see. Next up is Dracula, Prince of Darkness, edited by Martin H. Greenberg. Here we are. Pretty cool cover. Yeah, I pretty much collect copies of Dracula. I know this isn't essentially a copy of Dracula, but, yeah, this looks pretty cool. Never heard of the author before, but pretty interesting. You know, anything about Dracula, I will gladly take. Let's see. This one looks pretty awesome. This is called The Doomsday Scroll by Barbara Rogers. And yeah, this looks pretty awesome. Here we go. Definitely pretty cool. Let's see here. Okay, next up, we have this one. This one's really a matter of beggars can't be choosers, but to say I was disappointed would be an understatement because I saw the spine first and was like, oh my god, tell me it's the one. But it unfortunately was not. But the next book up is called Death Dream by Graham Masterton. There we are. There is a different cover of this book that is super eye-catching. It's like if it's the same title, I could be completely wrong in this sense, which I shouldn't be because every time I see the cover of that book, I really want it. But it has like a little boy on the front with like a fraction of his skull missing, and like there's like green eyes peering or like a yellow eye peering out of like the darkness in his skull, and it's just super cool cover. And again, it's like really like probably one of his better ones. But yeah, like I said, beggars can't be choosers. Let's see. Ooh, this next one is another one that I have eyed for a very long time. I think I found it on Mercari first when I was first just kind of browsing, and I tend to like favorite ones that I think I'm like, you know, if I'm feeling I'm just gonna splurge on myself or something like that, or if anybody needs like gift ideas for me and stuff like that. But this one I saw, I love the cover, and I love the color scheme, and but it was always like $25, $30, and I was just like, I can't justify that for myself. But now I don't have to because I got it for less than $1. So, and that book is Footsteps by Robert Irvine. And yeah, like it definitely gives me like an old 60s vibe, I want to say, maybe even possibly 50s, like murder mystery almost. But yeah, I just really like the cover. I love the colors. Like I said, it's a color you don't see a lot, like sand colored. It's just something you really don't see a lot. So I'm really excited to add this to my collection and not having to have spent $25 on it. So let's see. Up next is In Darkness Waiting by John Shirley. Now, I've never heard of this book, but
after I posted a little snippet on one of my Facebook groups that I'm in that had this on the front, a lot of people raved about it, said it was very, very good. So I'm definitely pretty excited to get to this one. This is definitely one I think I will make sure I get to, just because of all the praise that it's gotten. But yeah, I love that when you find a book that you don't really know anything about, never heard anything about it, and other people love it. I think that's awesome. But yeah, here's that one. Let's see. Ooh. Up next, another one that I've really wanted in my collection for a while, but just didn't, again, want to go the online route. But that is Ball by Robert McCammon. And this is the first print, first edition copy of Ball. I have a copy already, but it wasn't this one. So, yeah, I'm very excited to have this in my collection. It was his first book. I know a lot of people said it wasn't great, but, you know, he's my favorite writer, so obviously going to get anything he writes. So, very excited to have that in the collection as well. Let's see. Ooh, up next is The Devil's Cat by William W. Johnstone. And this cover, oh yeah, let's see if I can get you in there. There we go. Oh man, I love lenticular covers. They are just so cool. And I know Johnstone has a lot of lenticular covers. And so yeah, I was thrilled when I pulled this out of the box. Like, I couldn't even believe it. Not that it's super rare or anything, but like, you know, it's just one of those books you just don't expect to find in the wild. So when you find it, you're just like, what? So yeah, super excited to have this in there. Like, yeah, I was just like, oh man. And I know like a lot of people love his work too. So like, he's very sought after. So again, very excited to have added that to the collection. Let's see. Up next, we have Sepulcher by James Herbert. Pretty cool cover. Especially that right there. I thought that was like damaged, but it's supposed to be like that after I looked it up, which is definitely pretty cool. I wish more books kind of did that. Every time I see the word Sepulcher, it just kind of reminds me of that boss fight from Silent Hill Homecoming. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I beat that game like 6 or 7 times in a row because I wanted all the achievements on it. So like every time it was just, oh, the Sepulcher. So, but anyway. Next up is Pictures of Evil by Graham Masterton. Yeah, like I said, I didn't have any of his work in my collection, and now I have quite a few in there, so I'm very excited to be adding his work to my library. Again, unfortunately, none of the covers I've been after, but again, beggars can't be choosers, and I ain't being choosy. Next up is Sorcerer by Mark Manley. This is a book I did buy online for $20, unfortunately, and here it is again for less than $1. So, again, take it from me, as badly as you want to hit that buy now button on that book, hold off. Hold off. Again, unless it's like unless it's a steal. If it's something you absolutely can't pass up and you know you're not going to find it anytime soon in the wild, especially for a price like that, then do it. Or if it's like a special occasion for you, or do it anyway because it's your money, not mine. But anyway, next up is Ghost Story by Peter Straub. I really love this book. I read it a couple years ago, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years ago, but very, very slow burn. So if you're not into the whole world building, character development kind of thing, I wouldn't go for this. But if you're looking for a really good haunted house, like not haunted house, ghost story, definitely check that out. Let's see. Next up is Spectre by Stephen Laws. Pretty cool cover. Looks kind of like almost a haunted Full House. You know, this guy over here kind of gives me like almost a young Patrick Bateman vibe over here. But yeah, looks pretty cool. Next is Shades of Evil by Hugh B. Cave. Now, this I definitely, not this book, the author I definitely recognize because his other book, what is it called? I think I have it behind me as a matter of fact. But, anyway, that's not important right now. But anyway, yeah, I knew the name right off the bat just because I feel like it's a super unique name. But yeah, I don't know how much he's written, but I know I've at least got 2 of his books, so I'll take it. Okay, I think we're about halfway through, I think. Oh man, this video is already almost 40 minutes long. Ugh. I don't know, I might cut this into 2 parts, I think. This is long. But we'll see, I guess. Anyway, next up is Smart as the Devil by Felice Picano. Yep, pretty interesting cover. Never heard of the guy. But not sure if I'll honestly even ever get to that one. But, Not sure if this is even... Okay, yeah. Oh, ended up getting a sci-fi mystery book squeezed in there by accident, so never mind about that one. Anyway, next up is Next After Lucifer by Daniel Rhodes. There you go. Well, yeah, there's your typical red, black, gold colors and things like that. Still a pretty neat cover. I'm not going to knock it. But let's see. Next. This is interesting. Old Fears by John Woolley and Ron Wolfe. Very interesting cover. That guy definitely gives me like a zombie Ted Bundy vibe right there. But yeah, this was also posted in the snippet on the Facebook group that I'm in. And one of the members had mentioned that John Woolley was actually his college professor. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I love stuff like that when, I think that's just kind of one of the really cool things about book collecting in general is I guess authors feel more human, I want to say. Just, like how many times have you ran into somebody that went to school with a famous actor or had a famous musician as a teacher or something like that? You know what I mean? Like with authors, you have people that are just like, hey, that was my college professor. And it's like, oh, cool, they wrote a book. Like, you know what I mean? I just think that's super cool. And I think that really makes that book just even better for me. Let's see. Next up, we have The Servants of Twilight by Dean Koontz. Pretty cool book. Well, pretty cool cover, I should say. I have never read a Koontz book. I know. I'm one of the guilty people that had let the, I guess, negative hype around Koontz kind of affect whether I read any of his work or not. And I feel guilty about that because the guy's got to be talented for having a bibliography that I think is even bigger than Stephen King's. So, I don't know. I guess I got to find a right starting point for his work, but let me know in the comments where I should start with Koontz's work. Let's see. Next up is Anno Dracula by Kim Newman. Now, I think this is one that I have recently heard about in one of my Facebook groups. A lot of people have been raving about it. But yeah, I'm excited to add it to my collection now as well, so I'll have to check it out and see what all the fuss is about here. Get a good look at that. Here we go. Okie dokie, let's see. Next up we have The Omen by David Seltzer. Pretty interesting last name. But I already have a copy, but it has that really obnoxious, now a major motion picture blurb on the front that ruins especially that horrible, atrocious one on The Exorcist. I don't know who in the world okayed that kind of release. It is just a big banner completely across the front of the cover, and I am just like, why? Why did anyone think that was okay? Like, oh, it is just, ruins the cover for me. But anyway, let's see. Up next is Minotaur by John Farris. And this definitely looks like a pretty cool book. Really love the cover there. Definitely pretty awesome. Got a nice blurb by King there on the front, so, when you get his stamp of approval, you're doing something right. Let's see. Up next we have Death Coach by J.N. Williamson. A very interesting cover. Very, very interesting. The name sounds familiar too, but the other works kind of escape me at this point. But I think what's really interesting about this is like the vast difference between the back and the front. Like, it's just plain white. I don't know. I just think that's kind of cool. Let's see. Oops. Yeah, I feel like this is also another one that just kind of got thrown in here by accident. Yeah. I'm not going to showcase that one because I just don't feel like that is a horror book, but I could be wrong. Anywho. Next up is The Mask by Dean Koontz. And pretty cool cover. Okay. Up next. The Vampire of Mons. And that is by Desmond Stewart. And I think this one is like the earliest book in this collection that I got as far as horror is concerned. Let me see when this was published. I want to say it was the 60s. No, 70s. Early 70s. 1977. Okay. So, not super old or anything, but pretty cool. But again, this is also someone born in 89 calling 76 not that old, so take that with how you will. Alrighty, let's see. Next up we have The 12 Maidens by Stuart Farrar. Looks pretty cool. Yeah, I always like these older, kind of like just plain bordered covers. But that looks pretty interesting. Let's see. Next up we have In the Name of the Father by John Zodro. Yeah, pretty interesting. Nothing extravagant in my opinion, but let's see. Next up we have The Magdalene Scrolls by Barbara Wood. That one looks really cool. It's got the red pages there. Let's see. When was this published? 1979. Okay. Looks like 70s was a big year for red colored pages, I guess. Alrighty. Up next is In Silence Sealed by Catherine. Not even going to attempt the last name. I think I would do her more justice by respecting her and not attempting it. But yeah, here's that. Looks pretty interesting. Okay, up next. The Abyss by Ger Cunningham. And I don't think this is the Abyss I was talking about earlier when I was showcasing the Abyssos or whatever. I don't think this is the same book. It's a different cover that I know. But I love this cover. That's really cool. Okay. Alrighty, next up is Vampire by Jan Jennings. Looks pretty good. Yeah, I looked this one up too, and it was going for, I think, around the $20 mark, to be honest. Never heard of it or the author, so that was a nice surprise to see. Alrighty, only a couple more. We're almost there. Let's see. What is this? Okay, that's another one that got mixed in there by accident. But anyway, next up is Ghost Train by Stephen Laws. Very cool cover. Like, I really love how all these pop right out. It just looks so much cooler in person. Alrighty. Next up is The Omen, The Final Conflict. Again, I already have a copy of this, but it doesn't hurt to have another. Where's that? Okay. Let's see. Next we have Winter Wolves by Earl Westcott. Pretty cool cover. I'm not really a big fan of the metallic, reflective covers, honestly. I just think they're kind of glaring. And just like, I don't know. They're just not attractive to me. Let's see. Ooh. The Nameless by Ramsey Campbell. You can never have too much Ramsey Campbell in your collection. Alrighty. This was a good one that I found. Salem's Child by Robert W. Walker. I was very excited to see this one because I know Robert W. Walker, I want to say he switched over to spy novels. I know he did a couple horror before he switched over to spy novels. Again, I could be completely wrong on that, but I feel like I see his name constantly over in the spy novel area. But yeah, this is another one on the rare side, and is thankfully one of the books that was in better condition out of that lot, so I'm excited about that. Okay. Oh, this was one I was very excited to see in there, and it is Daisy Miller and the Turn of the Screw by Henry James. Now, I know the Turn of the Screw is hailed as one of the best horror novels of olden times. So I'm excited to get to this. I really want his other book. I think he wrote it. Was it I Have No Mouth and I Have to Scream? I think he wrote that too. I could, again, this is all going off the top of my head, so I have no facts of anything. I'm just kind of going purely off speculation at this point. Okay, we have 4 more, guys. 4 more and we're done. Alrighty, next up is Winterlord by Jean Brooks Genowaia. Okay, yeah, sorry. I butchered that. I'm sorry. I'll let you see that. Come on, get into focus there. There we go. Okay. And then we have The Shroud by John Coyne. I see his name pop up pretty frequently too. I think I have 1 or 2 of his other books. Haven't heard anything about his work, but, you know, I get it when I see it. It's about as much as I know. Okay, next we have Last Come the Children by David Hagberg. Pretty sweet cover. Really like that. I always like that, like, kind of off purple. But yeah, this is definitely... I feel like it was featured in Paperbacks from Hell. I could be wrong, but I know there was, like, other books from this company that publish covers like this that are in it, so that's why it seems so familiar to me. Okay, next up is Vampire Notes by Robert Arthur Smith. Pretty cool. Alrighty, and last, but certainly not least, is quite possibly not a horror book, if I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I think this is just actually more of a another spy espionage one that got tossed in here, but anyway. So yeah, sort of anticlimactic for the end of the video, but sorry about that. But yeah. So, unless I'm missing something here, and I don't think I am, that was all of it. So yeah, this video's coming in at just under an hour, so I apologize for it being so long, but you know, it's been a while since I don't think I've ever gotten a haul this good before. I think the only other time I've really gotten a haul this big was like when I picked up a huge Jean Saul collection. But yeah, overall, I think there is about 70 books altogether here, give or take 1 or 2. But yeah, honestly, probably the best haul I've ever had. I mean, you know, out of all of those, having only 2 or 3 doubles, I mean, what more could you really ask for? But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and checking out my haul. And, you know, if you stayed through the whole video, I really do appreciate it. Yeah, and I will see you guys in the next one. So take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.